Welcome this morning, class, for our today's tutorial. In today's discussion, we are going to look at Android application development and specifically the services. Now, what are services when it comes to Android development process and also the programming aspect? So when you're talking about a service, you're talking about components that runs in the background, perform a long-term running operations without needing to interact with the user, and it works even if the application is destroyed. You've come into situations where you receive some notifications from Facebook, you receive some notification that maybe your radio is still running at the background of your phone, for those ones who are using smartphones. So sometimes there's an application that is still running at the background. Sometimes if you want to ensure that your network or your data bundles are well utilized or are not exhausted so easily, sometimes you go further to do the settings at the background. Then you restrict some of the applications that are still running at the background in order to reduce the power usage and increase the long term of your battery. And also at the same time, you are reducing the usage of data bundles in your phone. Then you'll tend to find that now your data can stay for longer and so on. So those are the things that we talk about the service. These are components that remain running at the background to perform a long running operations without needing to interact with the users, and it works even if the application is destroyed. A service can essentially take two states. There are two main states that a service can take. So as a programmer, for you to implement the use of service, then you need to know about these two main states, because they are the ones that you'll be defining them under your methods. One of them is what is called the started. We use the start service. We use the start service method, declare the started. So a service is started when an application component, such as an activity, starts it by calling a start service. That's why in your programming aspect or the system developed, you'll always find a service being declared. For instance, within this program area, you'll have a service being set within the main program, which I will show you in a minute. After we start looking at the service functions or the manifest section, before we look at that, then we can first of all look at other areas that the service method is made up of. So we talk about that once you started the service, can now start running at the background infinitely. The next thing that we need to talk about is the bound. That is the next state or method that you have to declare within the program. The bound is a service is bound when an application component binds to it by calling the bind service method. So this is the main method that you have to call. So a bound service offers a client server interface that allows components to interact with the service, send requests, get results, and even do so across processes with inter-process communication, what are called the IPCs. A service has lifecycle callback methods that you can implement to monitor changes in the service. The state you can perform work at the appropriate stage, and also the diagram that I have given you down here shows you the life cycle of services that are created in the start service, which is the first state, and the second service, which is the bind service. Here, under the bind service, you talk about the image courtesy handling functions. Now, I have shown you here the diagram implementation of the two states that the service takes, the service state and the bind service state. So a service is started by the start service, and then a service is created by what is called the bind service. So under the started service or the start service, you need to implement on create, on start services. And that's why in this sample code, you'll be able to see on create and on bound services starting at the main activity. This is the main activity, and you can see here under the first function, protected void on create. So we have on create, which now requests the service to be started. This on create is what we are talking about implementation of these services within this sample code. So I believe that now you know the essence of the on create function being declared here on create. Then you have to declare what do you want to create. You have to declare the saved instance states in the bundle. So going forward, we look at what is called Onstart. This Onstart now will start the service to run. On create, declares the function to be created. Then this one starts the service to run and perform its practical. The service is stopped on no class or no callback if it is already running by using the function or the method called onDestroy. So onDestroy will shut down the service. That's when you exit the system. When you exit any application that you are running, let's say it was up, when you exit it, then it's shutting down. Exiting it means that you are calling onDestroy method. We also have what are called now the bind service, which you also start with on create, then you use on bind. The client interacts with the services now. If they are interacting with it very nicely, then you can unbind in order to reiterate the functionality of the application. Then we have the on rebind. On rebind now means that in case that it's not binding or the service is not binding with what you want, then or it's not interacting with you the way you want, then you can sometimes restart the system. So when you are restarting the app, you are rebinding it. Then after calling all the services, you can destroy the service by shutting it down using the function or the method onDestroy. Now, to create a service, you create a Java class that extends the service-based class, or one of its existing subclasses. The service-based class defines the various callback methods, and the most important are the given ones below. So I have given you here a better understanding of how you are declaring it. So mostly you start with Onstart command. The system calls this method when another component, such as the activity, requests that the service be started by calling the start service. Then if you implement this method, it is your responsibility now to stop the service when its work is done by calling the stop self or stop service method. Number 2 is the unbind functionality. This one, the system calls this method when another component wants to bind with the service by calling the bind service. If you implement this method, you must provide an interface that clients use to communicate with the service by returning an iBinder object. You must always implement this method, but if you don't want to allow binding, then you should return the null, as you will see in the code implemented. On unbind method, this calls this method when all clients have disconnected from a particular interface published by the service. For example, you've started a service of chat, and then if you disconnect the chat section so that you start looking at what the text that you have received in the messages, then you are calling the unbind method. OnRebind method is called when the new clients have connected to the service, meaning that if you restart again the chatting services that you have within your app, then after it had previously been notified that all had disconnected in its unbind intent functions. So the next one is what is called the onCreate. This is a method that you call when the service is first created using the onStart command or onbind. This call is always required to perform one-time setup, and also you need to know about now the onDestroy method, which is a method that is called or is no longer used and is being destroyed, meaning that when you exit the app or you exit the service that you are in after, then you are destroying the service. Now, there is a sample code that well demonstrates the life cycle of a service. Here you can start the public class with the name of your app if it was called Hello Service that extends now your services. Then you have to indicate how to behave if the service is killed, meaning that if you exit the service. So here we can declare it as a variable using the int mStartMode or any other form that you would wish. Interface for clients that bind, you can use the iBinder, mBinder. Then you can use now the boolean to indicate the rebound use by using the boolean allow rebound. When called, the service is being created. Now you have to start the service by using public void onCreate method. Now when the service has already now been started, you need to call the start service in order to launch the service. So you use the public int onStart command, int flags, int start ID. So these are the fields that you have within your app. If it is login, then you say int login section and int user or login ID. Then you return the service to be killed. That is the start mode that you had declared here earlier. Then with the bind service, you need to use the iBinder on bind intent and return the client that was binded earlier here declared. So you call what you have declared in the previous section. Then you have to use the unbound with the unbind service. So you call the boolean, which you had already declared here, boolean allow rebind. So we use here the boolean on unbind intent, then you return the allow rebind. Then since the unbind service has already been launched, you can now bind the service together using the public void on rebind function or method, which you call the intent functions inside it. Then if the service is no longer used and you want to exit the service, then you are using the destroy method, that is the public void on destroy. Then you'll be completing with the application. Now this example will take you through some simple steps that you need to understand when launching the Android service. So here is a simple hello world example chapter that you need to understand. The first step that you have to talk about is you'll use the Android Studio IDE to create an Android application name called my application, and under the package name you can use this line of codes in order to launch your package, or you can use the package that you have and you make some adjustments later. As you see, modify the main activity file by using the main activity.java to add the start service and stop service method. You need to create a Java file called Myservice.java under the package that you had already launched, and then this file have to be implemented using the service related methods. You need to define your service as Android manifest file using the service, and an application can have one or more services without any restrictions. So you need to modify the default content that is inside the res layout activity main file to include 2 buttons in linear layout. This is now the design section that you are designing for your application, and you are going to add some 2 buttons on it. No need to change any constants in the res values strings files, but you need to have the Android Studio take care of these strings values. Run the application to launch the Android emulator, or you can connect it to your debugging phone and then launch the application for it to start working well. Then you can verify and see how the application behaves when you click when you launch it and then exit the application, because you'll be running the start service and the stop service at the same time. Now here is a sample code that you are supposed to use within your main activity section. This is the main activity section that you need to launch. So write this code in the main activity section, whereby you are launching the Android, giving it a message Android, and this message will pop up within the notification section. It's called when first created. So on create method is called, then you are setting the content view to listen to the activity main activity that you had launched, so that it looks at what design have you implemented there. And remember, the design that you have placed in your main activity is the view text area, the logs, and those are the 2 main things that you have attached. The method to stop the service, now you call the public void stop service, which will now stop the work or the main service activity. And that's why you had created here myservice.class. So once it stops it, then you can be able to exit the service. Then you need to also create what is called the myservice.java class, which you have called it here under the stop and the start classes, because they are the ones that you want to run and view what is there. Now you can start this myservice.java class. Then this file can have implementation of one or more methods associated with service based on requirements. For now, we are going to implement only two methods, that's the onStart command and onDestroy command. Now, after you launch the app, now under myservice.xml, you're going to launch some different things. But now, here is what you're going to show me, the toast. The toast means that it's a section where it will be giving you some notifications. If you always see maybe there's a notification that comes pop up on top of your screen, then that is the use of the toast. It's the toast widget that gives you that view section, that the notification will come to showcase on your side. Then we have public class myservice extend service, which now this is now the service that you have already created. Now it will be extending the service activity of the Android. Then you'll be calling the iBinder on binding functions and then return a nil function, a null. Then the next one is you need to point on running the continuous stopping service of the toast of the activity, which will tell you whether the service has been started or not, by showing you now the toast service started, and then you will be destroying the service by using the service destroy. So these are the texts that you'll be seeing on the screen after you've launched the application, because the toast is called the notifier. It will be showing you, and here that's why you're calling the method show. Then following will be modified. The following are the things that you have to modify under the Android manifest file of your Android app. Remember, the Android manifest file is always one, and it's where you are calling all the activities that you have started for them to be launched when the application is launched once, because it's the main launcher, and that's why here you have the launcher of the main activity. So here you have to call the service called myservice, which you have started as the main myservice.java class. So you have to launch it here, so that when the application is launched on the main activity, it will also launch the myservice activity that, or myservice class that we have also started. Then within the activity main XML file, you need to add some buttons. So add a text view, which will now be showing the toast text that you had declared up here. Okay, that you had declared up here. That the service started and service destroyed. Then here the text, you can add here a text called examples of services. Then the key thing, if you want to modify this text, you can modify this text and add any text of your choice. The next area that you can modify is the text view 2, where, because this is the ID, so you need to note about the IDs that you are using, so that it doesn't give you an error when you are running a application. Here is the only areas that you can be able to modify, and also this text size if you want. Also here you can change this lectures point to any other text that you want. You can change also the color that's being displayed. You can change even the image of the button that you want to be displayed. You can change the text sizes and so on. But these texts are the key things that you can also launch. You can even change it to maybe DIT 016 or mobile programming, so that somebody can be able to see. And this text is what you have like in this application here. For instance, this one. See here, tutorials point. So this can be the text. So you can change that even to tutorial points instead of lectures points, and you get the correct text being displayed. You can change even these image buttons or drawable ABC. You can change this. So this is where you can even attach other images that you want to be displayed on your screen by using the image button. You can see this image that is being displayed in this application here. This image is what you can change. If you have another one, then you can go to the drawable area, then you paste there your image. So the image from there, then you can now call it now as a class under now this section called the Android source. Then you give here the image name. So under drawable, you can copy paste any image that you have downloaded that you want to use it as the image within the system. Then you can as well change these start services, text or anything if you want. But those are just the areas that you can be able to modify. Stop services, and then you end the program, the Android services, by using the button. The button you have clicked stop services. Button 1 you have used start services, meaning that after you've launched the application, you will have two buttons that you will have to click. You will click start service to launch the activity or the service, and then you will click the stop button, which you have written stop services, in order to stop the or destroy the service. So because we have said the two main states are destroy and on create, so those are the other things that you have to know. Now here I've given you sample example code, and this is the final result that we expect you to see. This image here you can be able even to change, and you've seen where I've said that you can be able to change that. And then you can launch the service by using the start, and then you can stop the service by using the stop service. Now to start your service, you click the start service, where you'll be launching the Onstart command method, and then the service will appear and show you that examples of the services. This text is what you had launched under example of services. It was here under the XML Android example of services here. This is the text that will now be displayed when you click start service. Then when you stop the service, it will be able to show you service started. When you click the start service, it will show you this. What gives you this notification is what you had started under the toast. You can go to the activity main, and then you had started here toast.makeText service started. So that is what you do. Then when you click the destroy or the stop, when you click the stop button, then it will call this public void on destroy method, and the text that we will show you is the toast.makeText service destroyed, as you're going to see as shown below here. You can see this service started. Then when you click the stop service button, this is the text that you'll be able to see is the service stopped. It will show you this service stopped now, but not service started. So that is the end of this lecture on services, Android services. Now it's you now to start coding this and attaching to your program and then launch it. So this is the main activity content. Then this is the code that you'll attach in the Myservice Java that you'll start as the other service or class. Then here is the Android manifest section where you'll call the class that you have started, Myservice Java. Then you make this design. This is now the UI UX design that is done under the activity main XML. Then after that, now that is the result that you'll be able to see. So thank you, and let us meet in the next lecture, which can be the Android broadcast and something else, or the content provider.